What's going on, guys? John here with the Fantasy Tap. Today, I'm here to bring you your buy and sell targets for your fantasy teams as we move into Week 6. I think that it's a great time to start looking to move some players around. We only have a couple more weeks until you guys are probably hitting your trade deadlines. And this is the first week of bye week, so you got to make sure that you have positions to play and you're planning ahead and not finding yourself in a week where you have no quarterback to play because they both are on bye week or missing out on your two key running backs. So let's make sure we can bolster that roster and pick up the slack on some of these players. A lot of them that you're buying are because they've either been underperforming, have been possibly forgotten about, or more than likely in a situation that they're looking to improve and bounce back. And if you're selling them, they are highly overperforming and cannot count on that to continue. So before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit that little like button down below and that little bell icon so you don't miss any of the content we come out with, as well as being on possibly one of our live streams, answering some questions for you as we move into Week 6. Now, first player we're going to be talking about is actually going to be Joe Mixon. Obviously, last week, he only got the ball 10 times, only played 28% of snaps, almost missed the game. But thus far this season, we haven't been getting what we wanted from Joe Mixon. It's not what we saw at the beginning of last season. But I don't think that's what we're going to be getting from the return of him. Last year, you watched him be an absolute dominant monster until getting injured and then fading away because we kept getting lied to that he was coming back. He started off the first week of the season, getting the ball 29 times, going for 127 yards, and even scoring a touchdown on the game. Absolutely beautiful. Brought a lot of hype to him, but since then has not found himself in running back 1 week since. I do think that this is going to be something we see changing, as we do know that the Bengals receiving core is healthy as of right now. We've got all 3 of them back, which means that opens up the running game a lot for them. And they do have a great run of games coming up, especially as we move into the fantasy playoffs. The next 3 weeks, you're going to be looking at them playing against Detroit, Baltimore, and the New York Jets. So grab Joe Mixon, especially if you have a spot. He's limited practice this week, so the owner may be just looking to move on and have someone else to play. If he drafted Joe Mixon, it was more than likely at the end of the first or beginning of the second round, meaning that he's more than likely a team's RB1 or an RB2. So offer them maybe someone that's a playable running back and a little bit of receiver help, or, help them trade up. But definitely someone you want to be targeting. Next on the block, we got Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon currently did not practice today. That means that Javonte not only is looking to get a bigger share of the backfield this week, but we've already started seeing it this season, as this guy has been getting more and more carries. Last week, he got 8 touches, only played 42% of snaps, but still got himself that consecutive receiving work that he's been getting for the past 3 weeks now. Now, I do think Javonte is at that point to where he's going to start seeing more and more of that backfield, and it's really going to take off after the bye week. But the player, if they have Javonte Williams, more than likely he's sitting on their bench or possibly sitting in their flex position. You may have to spend up a little bit for him, but what you're going to get in return is going to be absolutely great. Javonte Williams is an absolutely talented receiver, especially in PPR leagues where he does get, in the past 3 weeks at least, 3 or more targets per game, going for 3 catches. Watch for that to expand, especially as we move forward. Going on next, another rookie for you, Michael Carter, and another guy that's been taking over more and more and more the backfield. Every week, outside of week 2 and 3, he's been getting more snap percentage and more carries. Week 2, he got 45. Week 3, he got 43. But he's up into playing half the game right now. And last week had 13 total touches and found not only him, but even Ty Johnson getting some of the work as they're both moving into fighting for that running back 1 position. And for me, the eye test is proving that it's fairly obvious that Michael Carter is going to be the guy to take over that backfield, possibly getting more of a 60 to 70% share towards the end of the season, and someone that can easily fill in as a flex position or a running back 2 for you. And I don't think that he's going to be that expensive if you go after him. He's only currently seated at running back 35 or 34 on the year. So that means that there's an opportunity that the players just possible to move on and hasn't been paying attention to that backfield share. So he's someone you might want to be targeting if you're weak at the running back. Now, if you have, some capital to spend, I would recommend going up and trying to get Deandre Hopkins from the Hopkins owner. Look, he's been injured for the past 2 weeks. He's still injured coming into this week. And honestly, he hasn't been performing to DeAndre Hopkins levels. But we know better than that. We know DeAndre Hopkins can play absolutely amazing and be one of the best receivers regardless of the quarterback he has, and we've seen what Kyler Murray's been doing this year. I think that if you go and grab DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to be someone that the players looking to possibly move from maybe doesn't have the same confidence in them. He did just have a good week 5, but, hey, we'll have to see what happens. He's out currently. But go try to target him for a bounce back at the end of the year. Obviously, he's looking at some of the best matchups in the next few weeks. He's going up against Seattle in week 11, going to be playing against the Rams again in week 14, hopefully healthy, and then week 15, which is possibly the first week of your fantasy playoffs, or you're still in your fantasy midway through it, and he's going to be playing the Detroit Lions, followed by the Indianapolis Colts, and if you're doing a 17-week playoff, he's playing the Cowboys in week 17, and we've seen what happens in the Cowboys games where both teams are just able to light it up in the air. So go grab DeAndre Hopkins, send an offer out there, just shop for him. If he's available, you never know. It's definitely someone you're buying low and going to be getting a great return on. Someone else you can look to make an incredible return on if you were able to make the trade happen is going to be A.J. Brown. The guy's currently ranked as wide receiver 77, not only in half-point PPR, but across the board. He is not having an amazing year so far. Week 3, he left the game very, very early, only getting 12% of the snaps, and then did not play in week 4, which definitely made his numbers fall. And then the one game he comes back, obviously not 100%. Julio Jones wasn't there, and A.J. Brown only got 6 targets for 3 catches for 38 yards. The owner's probably ready to move on. Send them an offer. Go grab him. We know how talented A.J. Brown is. We know what Ryan Tannehill can do with him when they get in a groove, and we know he is an absolutely studly receiver when healthy, and obviously that health is going to be coming back. He's someone that does have an incredible run of games coming up, going against Buffalo this week, Kansas City next week, the Colts the week after that, then the Rams, and then to finish up your playoffs, you're looking at playing against the Miami Dolphins, the 49ers, or the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of those teams so far have been letting receivers, especially the one receiver on the team, absolutely dominate, and I see A.J. Brown still finishing as a wide receiver 1 by the end of the year, so go buy that low candidate. Coming off of injury, make sure to be trying to get T. Higgins, an absolutely great flex receiver who a lot of people, again, might be forgetting about or just haven't had interest in playing or do not trust him now because of the injury. Do not be that guy. T. Higgins is more than likely the number 1 wide receiver or the 1A, 1B with Ja'Marr Chase when both of them are full go. We saw him do it so far. Ja'Marr Chase has had his boom games, and he's starting to break out, and, hey, he might end up taking over that number 1 role, which just gives you more of a reason to buy this guy low, throw him in your wide receiver 3 spot, use him as a high-end flex option for you, and absolutely win your league. We know he has a connection with Joe Burrow, regardless if Ja'Marr Chase has one too. Both of those guys can stay absolutely dominant and fantasy relevant. The only guy I'm not comfortable with is Tyler Boyd in this offense. So again, another guy that's going to have a great run of games. Kansas City in week 17, which is your fantasy championship, going to be a high-scoring game. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Then you're going to be playing against Denver in week 15. So far this season, their numbers are showing that they're not a great passing defense to play or a great defense to play your receivers against. But if you watch them actually play, it's more of how the game script has been going, and it's just an early trend so far, and wait for that to flip. So grab T. Higgins, definitely someone that's going to be an absolute stud for you. And another person at the receiver category who has been underperforming as of late and possibly due to some quarterback issues, Terry McLaurin. Him and Taylor Heineke have an absolute great connection. He's been getting targeted more than 10 times 3 weeks out of the 5 so far. The problem is they just haven't been quality targets. He's been getting covered, and he hasn't been coming down with the ball. In week 4 against Atlanta, we saw him get 13 targets, 6 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is a mid to deep receiver that also gets work underneath, and when him and Taylor Heineke do click, he just balls out. I just think coming up against Kansas City this week, you're looking at a great game for him. And later on in the season, you're ending up with Dallas. You've got a Seattle game in there. Going up against Philly, where I think Taylor Heineke is going to absolutely ball out again. Look for Heineke to get more comfortable in this offense, and look for McLaurin to be a huge benefactor from it. One of the forgotten players that you might want to be targeting into this season is going to be Rashad Bateman. He has been on IR the entire season so far and has been trending on coming back. So look for him to be an absolute stud when he does. He was drafted as that team's first overall pick to be that team's #1 wide receiver, and that's because we haven't seen much from Marquis Brown over the past 2 seasons, and they were looking for that #1. Now, Marquis Brown is absolutely dominating this year, currently wide receiver 6 on the season. But when Bateman comes in, he's going to be targeted. He's going to be used. He has shown that he's very, very talented, especially if you watch those preseason games. Now, I don't think that he is going to instantly work his way into a wide receiver 1 role, but with how Lamar's been passing the ball and the amount of volume he's been passing so far this season, Bateman is in great opportunity to move up and have a very usable fantasy role. Now, if you don't have him, it's possible he's on IR, it's possible he's on the waivers, and it's possible he's sitting on someone's IR spot. Take the offer for him. Don't send too much. You're not looking to redo your entire roster, but if you've got a few pieces that are going to be included in our sell high pieces, or sell high a little bit later on, definitely someone you're going to want to be grabbing. If you guys are really, really desperate and you have some capital to spend off of, your roster, try to swing and get an offer on Darren Waller. He had that one huge game in week 1 going up against Baltimore for over 100 yards, did get the touchdown, but since then, he's been a mid tight end 2, low tight end 1 each week. He's been getting the targets, been seeing 7 or more targets every week since week 2 and getting 4 more catches. The problem for him is they're just not turning into a lot of yards and they're not turning into any touchdowns. Look for that to switch. Him and Derek Carr have shown that he is an absolute monster, one of the best receiving option on the team. And even with 7 catches, we've seen him go for games with 18 points for 88 yards and a touchdown. Last season, his 9 touchdowns just came out of nowhere, and they can happen at any time. And with the amount of targets that he gets, it's just a breakout is possible on any game. Darren Waller is a buy low candidate right now, only sitting at tight end 5, likely to move up to the tight end 2 or 3 position by the end of the year. If you can wait to play the guy you're trading for and have him sit on your bench for a couple weeks, you have a great starting lineup, go and take a shot on grabbing George Kittle. He's gotten 20 targets over the last 2 weeks, 132 yards and 11 catches. Those targets alone are what we're chasing, especially at that tight end category, and especially when we know who the talent behind those numbers are. The tight end position is mainly looking for just a handful of catches and a huge touchdown upside. And with the underperformance of Brandon Ayuk so far this season, I think we're going to be seeing a huge bounce back from George Kittle by the end of the season. The main thing is, again, he is hitting IR for a calf injury, but that means he's not going to be able to play for you, and he's not going to be able to play for the other guy. So he may be looking to unload on him and possibly looking for a replacement tight end and maybe a little bit extra. You should be able to grab him very, very cheaply, as he is only tight end 17 on the year. Now let's get into some sell candidates. These are going to be guys, again, who are overperforming, moving in, and we don't expect them to continue this, or they've come off a huge week and a lot of people just like to buy the hype, and selling high is always a great time, possibly using these guys to trade for some of our buy targets. First guy on the ticket is, because in my opinion, he's one of the biggest trade candidates. That's going to be Myles Gaskin. Running back 2 on the week and was an absolute stud. Biggest problem for him, and we saw it last week as well, he's not getting the touches. He did only get 5 carries, but he did get 10 catches, 10 targets. That's awesome. 2 touchdowns. But those aren't going to happen every week. We have the Tampa Bay offense demolishing the Miami defense and just allowing Miami's offense to be on the field a lot this week. And for some reason, the dump off to the backfield was working. Myles Gaskin scored on the same play twice. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of defenses let that happen every week. And you're not going to be expecting Myles Gaskin to go off for 74 receiving yards, because it's just not going to happen every week. What you need in the Miami offense is a running back that's going to be consecutively touching the ball, and we don't have one here. They're going to be moving the ball around to whoever's playing well, and just no one's going to be getting the workload for you to be rostering and starting a player consecutively and weekly, or even when you really need to. So sell them high, let people buy in the hype when they see that 26-point total coming off of week 5, and move on, because he's not the guy. Again, another player who's coming off not only 1 hot week, but 3 now, James Conner. The guy's gotten 5 touchdowns in the past 3 weeks. Now, if you look at his stat totals, you're looking at a lot of total carries and a limited amount of total snap percentage. That's because they're mainly using him in the red zone. He's one of the highest red zone carry percentages in the league right now, especially being that he's a number 2 running back on that team. James Conner is someone that you're not going to expect to get 2 touchdowns a game, 1 touchdown a game. And to be honest, with this hot streak, the law of averages is going to let us know that it is more than likely a complete flash in the pan. He has had 39 total carries in the past 3 weeks, which does sound great. But let people buy in on this. It's going to make him a lot hotter. It does look like he can fit into a flex position comfortably. But if those touchdowns don't happen, you're looking at someone who's finishing as a non-playable running back. I couldn't even put a number on it because you're looking at probably like running back 60. So move on from him. Do not take it. Another baited trade you can look at is going to be getting rid of A.J. Dillon, the proposed backup and handcuff for Aaron Jones. Has been getting a lot of work the past 2 weeks and has kind of been outscoring Aaron Jones, which is surprising. But what you're looking at here is someone who's been getting a couple big breakaway runs, 1 or 2 touchdown passes. He has looked good. But I think you're looking at a lot of people might be expecting him to take over that backfield or even start taking over a larger share of that backfield. His snap percentage hasn't been that much higher over the past 2 weeks than it was coming into the season. The plays have just been going there. In week 5, if it wasn't for that touchdown, you're looking at like a 3.5 point game, only getting 8 touches for 30 yards. He did have an incredible rushing game against Pittsburgh, but A.J. Dillon is just not someone that you're going to want to be putting into that flex position because there's such a low floor for him and such a high ceiling if he only happens to get the touchdowns. And we're not chasing touchdowns. We're chasing opportunity, and the opportunity is not there. You're not chasing the touchdowns on 12 targets unless it's Cordarrelle Patterson because he's an absolute freak. Another receiving target that you're going to want to be getting rid of is going to be Tyler Lockett. A beautiful target to get rid of because right now he is sitting at wide receiver 13, which means that he's going to be very, very marketable. Definitely someone who came off on the hot start, 2 20-plus point games. One game going for 178 yards. The other one went for 100. And neither me or Mike recommended drafting Tyler Lockett. And it's exactly for that reason. He has these very, very big games because for some reason he just gets in the groove and it's him and Russell Wilson just find those spots. But then he just disappears completely. Even last week, he got 10 targets again, only got 5 catches, and only went for 57 yards. Weeks 3 and 4, he scored less than 10 points. And what ends up happening is you feel the need to play him, but he busts for you. You want that high ceiling, but he gives you this low floor and possibly keeps you out of winning that week. I would be trying to trade him away right now, looking to get someone who's a little bit more consistent or someone that's starting to break out. Definitely not someone I want to hold on to my team, as there's more than likely only going to be 3 or 4 games rest of season that he should be starting in a lineup. So look to trade him away, especially as Russell Wilson is going to be out. Geno Smith has been looking decent, but even DK Metcalf is taking it to another level this year, dominating Jalen Ramsey in week 5. Going on to Marquis Brown. Marquis Brown is wide receiver 6 on the year. It only took 3 years for him to start breaking out and finding connection with Lamar Jackson. The guy has getting targeted and targeted and targeted. And again, he's getting touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. He's currently got 5 on the year. This is the best season of his career so far, and we're not going to be buying into it and continuing. Last week against Indianapolis, it was an absolute show. Lamar Jackson threw for over 400 yards, the first time in his career, and Marquis Brown received 125 of those and 2 touchdowns. Sell high, except that, hey, he's still going to be a great player if you're not able to sell him. So he's not someone you need to get rid of, but he's more than likely not going to be continuing at this high pace for the rest of the season. So you might as well cash out high, grab someone else that you can play, and possibly a little bit more, and let the other players start playing him and not getting these numbers that you have. Moving on to the next receiver, we've got Cortland Sutton. This is mainly coming on the fact that this guy's been blowing up, showing us why he finished as wide receiver 19 back in 2019, 2 years ago. For the Denver Broncos when they were having a lot of quarterback issues. We're selling him off right now because Jerry Jeudy is going to be coming back, and he is, in my opinion, the more talented receiver on that offense. Cortland Sutton's still going to be someone that is going to have some good weeks, but he's just not going to be playing at the high pace that he has been. You're definitely not going to be seeing him getting as many targets. Recently, he's been getting absolutely flooded. 11 targets last week, 7 catches, 8 the week before that, and then 12 week 2 against Jacksonville. And just do not expect it to continue at that pace, especially when Jerry Jeudy comes in. Currently a wide receiver 27 on the year. So a sell high candidate. Go grab yourself possibly a Jerry Jeudy or someone else. It's definitely going to be taking a decline here. A player that you're going to be definitely wanting to sell if you have them, this is the time to do it because Marquez Callaway came in so hot on the year because of the performance he put up in the preseason and then started off so poorly that a lot of people started dropping him. Last week, people who were benching him, had him on their roster, people that were possibly dropping him, really kicked themselves in the butt because of the stat line he put up, not because of the playing that he did. He put up a 8-target, 4-catch, 85 yards, 2-touchdown game. Those yards came off of one deep throw-it ball from Jameis Winston that definitely not going to be happening every week. The other one came off of a great play. I'll give him that. I don't think Marquez Callaway is the talented receiver, especially with the opportunity for Michael Thomas to be coming back in the handful of weeks. You're going to want to get rid of this guy because he does have that name value for some reason because of what happened in the preseason and a lot of the expectations put upon him that after a great week like this and him being on bye week, you've got 2 weeks to get rid of him and before he busts for you again and his market value just completely crashes. So get rid of him if you got him. I'm sorry if you grabbed him. Take the value that you have for him now. And then here's just a sneaky player you can add to some trades if you need to add some value for, and this guy's more than likely going to be losing some of that value. It's going to be Tim Patrick. Now, I know what you guys are saying. Hey, when Jerry Jeudy was there and Cortland Sutton was healthy and Noah Fant was healthy, Tim Patrick was still playing very well and being fantasy relevant. Both of those games come absolutely off of touchdowns. He's a rosterable receiver if either of the other guys in the offense go down because his target share just jumped right up. As soon as Jerry Jeudy went down, he went from 4 targets a game to 5, 6, and then 9 last week, getting 7 catches for 90 yards. He finished as a top 36 wide receiver last week and is currently wide receiver 30 on the year. So I would be getting rid of him, adding him into some trades to get some extra value from them, or possibly just tilt the trade in your favor and make the person say yes. Not someone you were looking to have an expanded role when Jeudy comes back. If anything, going to be a touchdown-dependent wide receiver with a very low floor and a moderate ceiling. So, guys, that is going to be our trade targets so far for up to week 6. A lot of these guys, again, are either overperforming, underperforming from their values, and we just want to see you guys get a lot of value for them while it's still there. Okay, guys, I really appreciate you jumping in for this episode. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video down below, hit that little bell icon. And then, of course, as always, we have a great Discord. If you guys have any more trade targets, trade candidates, trade questions, or even some start sits or anything else related to fantasy football or football in general, Discord link will be down in the description below. Again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.